Let's do a fun basic comparison. And the comparison is going to be the Hi-Point C9 9mm here comparing to the M&P Shield made by Smith & Wesson, also chambered 9mm here. So, two very different price points on these guns. The Hi-Point C9 is about 150 bucks. The M&P Shield is about 400, and that's average price. You can get them for cheaper or more expensive depending on where you're at. The magazine capacity is similar. The basic magazine capacity from the factory for the M&P is 7 rounds. For the Hi-Point, it's 8 rounds. You do have an 8-round option for the M&P from the factory, and from a Hi-Point you can purchase a 10-round extended mag from the factory. So, similar in the capacity comparison. Hi-Point has just a little bit more, but that's okay because the Hi-Point is very bulky in comparison to the Smith & Wesson. As far as size, when you do the basic size, take the Hi-Point and then put the Smith & Wesson on top of it. Somewhat similar. Smith & Wesson is just a little bit smaller. Where the difference comes is the width. The width of the gun. You can see right there the Hi-Point is almost twice as wide as the Smith & Wesson. And that's just because of the difference in material, the difference in engineering. And it's just a different class. The Hi-Point is, if it's $150 retail, probably expect it to cost way less than $100 to make. And because of that, the only way to stay in business with a gun that cheap to make is you have to use cheaper materials, cheaper designs, and whatnot to be able to do that. And I think Hi-Point's able to do that. It's a very, very inexpensive gun as far as you can see the slide. It's made out of a cheaper material than most handguns. It's very bulky because it's a basic blowback action. It has to be bulky in order to function correctly. The polymer is real inexpensive. Even the magazines, very basic magazines for the Hi-Point. The sights, the front sight is molded in to the slide here. The rear sight, this is a comes with the 3-dot setup. This is just a ghost ring that it comes with, and it's a basic plastic setup that is fixed onto the slide there. You can break this off if you're too rough with it, so you got to be careful. The safety, very rudimentary safety. There's not a lot of controls on this gun. Basic magazine release. Polymer has a lot of tooling marks on it. I don't know if you can see right here. There's some marks from the sanding where they sanded in the groove to the trigger guard here. The frame is press fit together. You can see the line right there. It's very inexpensive to make gun. It works, and it works well for what it is. I like these guns, but they're very inexpensive. They're very rough as far as their design is concerned. In contrast, $400. You can see the design here. Safety, integrated slide lock, slide release lever, your takedown. The Hi-Point, you have to use a tool and punch out a pin in order to disassemble the gun. This you don't. The sights are metal and they're dovetailed in so you can replace them if you want to. Very, very good quality made metals that went into this gun. The polymer frame, very, very well made, very thick in design. Even though the design itself is very slim, the polymer frame itself is very thick. The magazine, very well made. You can see the difference right off when you look at this versus a Hi-Point magazine. This is where the extra money's coming in. You pay extra money. I know sometimes you pay for the price, or for the brand rather, but sometimes you do pay for quality. This is a home run from Smith & Wesson. I really like the shields. I think they did a good job. They really refined the product, and it's very well made. It's very thin, it's very concealable, and it's very controllable. The Hi-Point doesn't have a lot of recoil in 9mm because it's bulky. It is a little bit top heavy, but when you go out and shoot it, you realize, okay, it's not bad. Granted, the 9mm doesn't have much recoil in the first place. The Shield, even though it's smaller, lighter, there's less slide mass, everything's tinier on this gun, has even less recoil than the Hi-Point. And that's because of engineering and design, not because of bulk or anything like that. It's just well engineered. This thing is a joy to shoot. I love shooting the M&P Shield. Very fast, very low recoiling. So there's just some basic comparisons between the two. I didn't go in over internals. I didn't break them apart. I didn't want this video to be too long. It's just a basic comparison. A lot of people say, hey, my high point is just as good as your Glock, Smith & Wesson, HK, whatever brand firearm you want to insert into that sentence. A lot of people say, well, my high point is just as good. It's a good gun, but it is cheaply made. And it has to be cheaply made in order for the company to stay in business. You know, it's just not going to work otherwise. It works, but you can find a lot of refinement out there if you spend a little bit more money. I've always advocated, hey, if you can't afford anything more, go with a high point. Nothing wrong with it. For basic range use and self-defense use, it'll work. But along with that, if you can afford more and you can do so, check out some of the other models out there, because you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised, and you'll see where that extra money, what that extra money is getting you. So right there, basic comparison. I'll probably do a shooting comparison at some point. Not sure when. I have to fit it into my schedule, but I'll do a basic shooting comparison between the two just to show you on the range how they both function. And hopefully I'll be able to get that done soon. So alright, with that said, enough babbling out of me. Feel free to put your thoughts and inputs. Again, this is just kind of a silly comparison. I'm just having fun with this. So guys, keep that in mind when you kind of look at this video. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, keep it safe.